Hey guys, it's Junior. Welcome back to my channel here at Horsepower Warehouse. Before we get into today's content, and I got some really cool Corvette stuff to show you, I just wanted to address, I'm getting a bunch of messages. People are Googling my name, Horsepower Warehouse, and coming up to a previous property that me and my father actually used to own, and it says permanently closed. Well guys, as you can see, I'm still here in our 50,000+ square foot facility. I am still an employee here of a company that my father and I founded. This is Classic Cars of Sarasota. Although we are no longer the owners, I'm still head of restoration and I'm still plugging away here. So as long as I'm still turning wrenches, guys, you can rest assured Horsepower Warehouse will not be closed. But I wanted to jump right into Corvette content for today. As you guys know, if you have previously seen my channel, this kind of covers three types of content. Number one is my work. I'm super proud of this and I'm always happy to share it. Number two, I'm really into race cars. And they always say, if you want to shoot YouTube videos, shoot what you love and it will never get monotonous. So I'm going to be covering my race car stuff, like it or not. I know it's some of my lowest performing content, but some of the stuff that I'm most enthusiastic to shoot. Number three, I actually have a inventory of cars over here that, man, I just love to show off to you guys. There's no way that I could not show this. It would be wrong of me to ignore all the cool stuff we have over here with having an automotive based YouTube channel. So today we are going to jump right into the Corvette builds. It's been a little while, so I wanted to give you guys an update. Here is our $20,000 restoration on this big block Roadster 427 car. This thing has come out really, really, really nice. I've already made, I think, 2 previous videos on kind of the progress of this car, and here's where it ended up after $20,000 worth of work. You guys may be able to identify this as a 1966 427. This is just a really nice silver on silver. We did a wet sand and buff on it. We repainted the entire engine bay. I basically went as far as I could with regasketing and doing cosmetics on the engine bay, short of just taking the engine out. So this was not an engine out procedure, but I really went and tried to make it look like it was. Full interior, kind of got the treatment, new carpet, insulation, new seats. We didn't go over everything. There are some things that we re-dyed and there's some stuff that we steamed and cleaned and tried to rejuvenate. So it wasn't a full sweep of an all new interior, but you really couldn't tell. It came out fantastic. As you walk around the car, it polished up really nicely. We did change it over from bias ply to modern radial tires, although they are gold lined, so it still looks like a vintage tire. As I walk around the car, I mean, just a refresh. Now this thing is ready to, you take it out in the sun and bring it to a car show, it's really gonna shine. Things like the decals and little things. The only thing that really kind of gets me on this one that I was not able to replace because it was out of stock at the time was this Frigidaire decal, but nonetheless, I'm not gonna beat myself up too much over a decal that will be probably a few minutes to replace. You can see we have 1 split window here, 2 split windows, 3 split windows, 4 split windows here in the shop right now. So I am super thankful that I'm able to work on such cool stuff. I'm not going to glide right past this though. I'm excited to talk about these. Man, this car is coming out fantastic too, but one at a time, ladies and gents. We have the chassis coming together for our 67 coupe. This is a black tri-power 427. A la right there. The engine has been fully rebuilt by my guy Steve Keach and his crew. They, in my opinion, the best that you can get, so that's why I choose them for all of my builds. This is actually not an original chassis. This chassis was produced by Vet Products of Michigan. So it is a OEM style chassis. It's just brand new, and you wouldn't be able to tell unless I just told you guys. If we were to put this up against a original OEM chassis that was just non-pitted in perfect condition, that's what it would look like. These guys use original jigs and fixtures when they produce their chassis. It's not the cheapest option. I think it was 10 grand or so for the chassis without all the powder coating and all the stuff, you know, that you see on it here. And it's also, more importantly to us, a little bit of a wait. I think this was a 10-month wait to receive this chassis, but that is par for the course when you're ordering chassis for at least C2 Corvettes, because you're not going to get any less of a time frame if you order an Art Morrison chassis or a street shop chassis. Same thing with Roadster. I mean, all of them. You're going to wait 10 plus months. Usually a year is kind of par for the course on receiving a chassis after you put down your deposit and get in line. You can see this thing is coming together really nice. Ivana's got parts kind of laid out around the car, and you can see we have our tables laid out around it. I've already rebuilt the differential. We have the stainless fuel lines, stainless brake lines. People ask me all the time, you know, what's your parts source? I wish it were that easy, guys, because I a la carte everything on these. There's no one source that I can go to get everything. Trust me, on the accounting side of things, that would make things so much easier if I didn't have to go through 20 different distributors to get the certain pieces that I want. But I'm super picky, guys. I will only use a certain type of U-joint. I only use bushings from a certain place. It goes on and on and on. Things like the general hardware, you can usually get those from 2 or 3 different sources to get the same thing. But there's a lot of stuff on this build, or these types of builds, where you really got to know who you're buying it from, because they all kind of represent it as the same thing, but you'll totally get different products when you actually get the box in the mail and you open it up. So just be cautious of who you're dealing with. If you've dealt with them before, of course, this is all, you know, you know what you're expecting. Windshield is getting ready to go in this convertible. Lots of parts rehab right now on this. This is kind of the part of the build where it's just a lot of little things need attention, and then it's very quick to put the parts on the car, but you'll spend a whole day working on something small just to be able to get it, you know. You'll spend one day, 8 hours of work to do 10 minutes of installation. So that's where, you know, it takes patience, but I love this either way, because it's coming out so beautiful, and I'm excited to show that with you guys in the future. You can see we have our street shop chassis and our Art Morrison chassis. Little bit of a deviation on the plan for this car. This chassis is actually for that split window. I made the mistake in my previous video of making a comment on this guy's engine choice. We had originally kind of theorized that this car would be good with an LS3 480 horsepower engine. Let me just kind of state my case here and why I called that a mild engine combination. Right here is an LS7 570 horsepower crate motor. 570, naturally aspirated. You know, it's a thumper of a motor, but that is almost 600 horse out of a naturally aspirated, that's right now power. So they always say, back in the day at least, no replacement for displacement. Well, that's what they were talking about, ladies and gents. That motor right there, that's a thumper. So when you pull up in a car show, and this is going in a split window as well, it's going in that split window on the rotisserie. When you pull up at a car show, you can not only hear the difference between 570 horsepower LS7 and a 480 LS3, the power delivery, when you look at the total package, when you look at the capabilities of the brakes, the capabilities of the suspension, the chassis, this chassis will not be upset with, I would say 1,500 horsepower I could probably put to this chassis. I would have to get stronger axles and, you know, change a couple things if we wanted to go to that power level, but the chassis would not be upset with 1,500 horsepower. I could call Tom Nelson today and we could get an LS motor with twin turbos that would deliver that on pump fuel with hydraulic lifters. It would just be a happy, easy to drive motor that you could send your wife to go get groceries in and then turn up the boost knob and put down 1,500 horsepower. That's the capabilities of these chassis. So basically, we're not limited in that regard with either, of these in terms of horsepower, at least with what we have here. This guy, we're ultimately going to end up with, I believe, is an LT4, a 650 horsepower, which is kind of the standard, I would say, in high-end resto mods right now. If you look at Chevrolet-based resto mods, you will see a lot of LT4 power plants. Also, you will notice the new Escalade V that just came out has an LT4 in it. The ZL1 Camaro that was just taken off the market. Unfortunately, they killed the Camaro program. Breaks my heart because I have one, but that was an LT4 engine. So this is their most modern, spiciest kind of LS right now. And of course, I'm not talking about the new C8 motors. I'm talking about, front engine, rear, that type of deal. Back in the 60s, this is a 400 horsepower rated motor. I'm not gonna lie to you guys and tell you that right now this is gonna make 400, because we all know that these were underrated back then, and then Steve puts better parts in my motors. This has a little bit of a different, I use comp cams, or he does rather. So this is more than 400 horsepower. Let's say it's 450 right now. Would I want to choose the same horsepower that was available back in the 60s for my modern resto mod car? I would probably, now just speaking for myself, I would probably choose more horsepower just because it's available nowadays. This car would be really, really cool with 650 horsepower out of a supercharged LT4. It's getting a T56 manual, so it's gonna drive nice. We're gonna have, the double overdrive transmission, so it'll cruise down the highway with the selected gear set that we have in it right now. So yeah, that's just kind of, I wanted to state my case with this. Comment down below, how much horsepower would you want in your several $100,000 resto modded split window Corvette? Where do you draw the line on what you would think is acceptable or you would be desirable for resale? When you see it go across the block at Mecum or Barrett, what makes you go, wow? And it doesn't have to be 1,500 horse, because that will kill most people. Most people can't drive a 1,500 horsepower car on the street, without hurting themselves. I think 650 is like the magic number. Just my opinion now. And this is coming from a guy that has a Copo with an LS, it's a 740 or so horsepower naturally aspirated LS motor in my Copo. Is that friendly to drive? No, not at all. This car, kind of the same deal right now as this one, in that I am just refurbishing a ton of little parts and going through it. It's less installation, more restoration right now on these two builds. And it's kind of interesting because they're both 63s. That one, of course, a coupe, that one a convertible, but in both being white, pretty neat. You can see we have the Al notch. Correct me down below, because I have no idea, and we had a big discussion here at the shop. Notch is, I think, the answer that most people are giving, all laid out. Actually, the silver car that I just showed you, that one is an Al notch kit as well. But you can see his carpet kits are just amongst the finest you can get for the C2s. You can see we have this one completely sound deadened and pretty much ready for the kit. So Ivana's got it all laid out. We like to lay it out at least 24 hours or so it doesn't get the box shape anymore in the carpet. And then of course we lightly steam it, so that way it kind of relieves it before we lay it down. We'll steam it, let it dry, and then install. So anyhow, this one has kind of been a little bit longer of a video. I apologize, and I definitely apologize for it being so long since my last video. We've been cranking back here in the shop, and when I get working, it's hard for me to put down a wrench and pick up a camera. But anyhow, thank you guys so much for joining me, and until next time, take care.